They think they recognize something in me, and I want to be that person that they think I am, but I'm not. They see a greatness in me and they mistake it for goodness, but I know there's nothing there. As fast as I run, I can't get away from that.
I really don't like most Kung Fu Panda video essays because they kind of split into two camps. Either Kung Fu Panda is the best franchise that DreamWorks has ever made, or a series of in-depth video essays talking about Tai Lung and how he was actually always right all along. And it's very important to me that I get this across to you. I don't think there's a right or wrong here. I don't think there's a good or evil here. I think there's just values and people and the tragedies that lie within. When you were a kid, have you ever been told that you were very smart for your age, or maybe you were very mature for your age? It fills you with a bit of pride initially. It helps bolster the ego. And then the person who told you this, either your parents or your teachers or whoever, they go on and help out some other kid who is not as gifted or talented or mature as you. And I think this is the first mistake that society makes towards generally exceptional or gifted people. They assume that because you are mature for your age, that you are more capable for your age, that you are in less need of guidance. And I think that's where the first tragedy begins. Tai Lung's biggest burden was that he was exceptional. Tai Lung was a naturally gifted person on top of being a hard worker. That's generally what separates the good from the greats. And when you're great, when you are built like this, it becomes increasingly hard to find people on your level, as well as finding mentors who are actually capable of guiding you. Because, especially in adolescence, people need peers. They need people on their level, and they need mentors who can guide them. But when you're exceptional, you need mentors who are often also exceptional, and those are hard to come by. And in that kind of way, Shifu failed Tai Lung. But for me to talk about that, I need to tear into Oogway for a bit. This is a video about Tai Lung, but more broadly about the tragedies of exceptionalism that we never really think about. In full transparency, I really fucking hate Oogway. Because, hear me out, right? For 1,000 years, you have this guy, Oogway, who is the most respected member of the community, who's been around for a very, 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 very long time. You've had presumably generations of martial artists show up, spending maybe their literal entire lives honing their craft. Literally look at how old Shifu is, who have been trying to prove that they are worthy, who've been trying to prove that they had what it took. And Oogway, for that 1,000 years, was like, no, no, no. And see, if the Dragon Warrior title was just a metaphor for perfectionism, where it becomes representative of this idea that no one is perfect, but it is a goal you strive for, not a goal that is actually ever attainable, I wouldn't mind. But because the goal is arbitrary, because Oogway just kind of chooses whoever he feels the vibe for, that sucks for literally everyone else involved who has to work so hard to try to prove that they're worthy for this. And it gets made so much worse with the subsequent Kung Fu Panda films because it kind of reveals that Oogway just had like a major panda bias, which retroactively makes the first film worse because it just seems like he was waiting for a panda to show up and just give them the title. So sorry if you worked really hard your entire life, sorry if this was something you were trying so desperately to attain for, you weren't the right panda, you weren't the right animal. And if you really look at it, like from a personal relationships perspective, Shifu was Oogway's student. They have like a father-son dynamic, sort of, which is canon in like one of the Kung Fu Panda shows, if anyone cares to watch that. And by extension, that makes Tai Lung kind of like the proverbial grandson of sorts. So, Oogway creates what is basically generational trauma to his son and his proverbial grandson, and then just gets to peace out. Like, no responsibility, no accountability, no nothing. And the part that gets me is that this man has been doing this for presumably 1,000 years. The grandma from Encanto gets so much shit for this specifically, for generational trauma, and Oogway just gets nothing. Just fucking nothing. Oh, funny turtle man gave pseudo wisdom about how the present is a gift because it's called the present. Oh, fuck this turtle. I fucking hate this turtle so goddamn much, man. And so, in the process of this movie saying, you don't need anything special to make you special, which is a beautiful message, by the way. Like, I understand the message. The movie also ends up saying your efforts and the hard work you put in don't actually matter. Because some guy will show up with literally 3 days worth of training and then just dismantle everything. Nothing you did ever actually mattered. Not the hard work, not the sweat, not the blood, not the tears. Nothing. Fucking nothing mattered. And so it was never actually a meritocracy. Tai Lung could have never been Dragon Warrior because it was never about how skillful you were. It was never about how dedicated you were. It was never about anything you could have personally done to have changed the outcome, because Oogway was always going to wait for a panda. And so Tai Lung was always destined to fail. That's not one of the tragedies that I was meaning to talk about, but that was just a systematic thing I wanted to point out about Kung Fu Panda's universe. And you may be wondering, where did I get that 1,000-year mark? Well, for this video, I actually went out of my way to buy a USB DVD player and an original copy of the 2008 Kung Fu Panda movie on DVD. Because on this DVD, you have the filmmaker's commentary about all the little things they did and thought about when making the film. This is going to come into play later.
Yeah, we've been building up the entire movie, and it's been 1,000 years of history in this world that this scroll contains a secret.
The secret was fucking nothing. And the point I was trying to make with that little big rant over there was to point out that it was never a meritocracy. And that's important, because I think we really like the idea of meritocracies. We like the idea that people get what they deserve. That if you work hard for something, you deserve the fruits of your labor. You deserve the gold medal. If you prove yourself the best, you should get a spot at the Olympics or whatever accolade you're trying to go for. But also, meritocracy comes with a lot of blind assumptions. One of the main assumptions, I think, is that you assume the system is fair, because obviously you'd want to gauge who would be the best, right? Right? And so, this is where Shifu and Tai Lung's relationship really comes to a stranglehold, because Shifu raised Tai Lung with the expectation that he would eventually become Dragon Warrior, and he did prove to be the best. He was exceptional. But in the process, Shifu also taught Tai Lung that the love he had for him was predicated on this idea of future success. And in that way, Shifu failed to be a good mentor to Tai Lung. And so, for Tai Lung, and people like Tai Lung, when you lack mentors, when you lack good mentors, and you lack peers, you become victim to what is the next great tragedy that often befalls exceptional characters. You become a dark reflection about what your society values.
Yeah, これはまたすごい個性だな。
ほんと、ヒーロー向きの派手な個性ね、カツキくん。あ、そっか。俺がすげえんだ。みんな、俺よりすごくない。
I think everyone's heard the phrase, it's lonely at the top. But I really do think that's kind of underselling the actual deep sense of isolation that occurs when you're exceptional. Because a lot of the time, it's not like exceptional people are stupid or whatever. It's just when you don't have good mentors, when you don't have peers, the only thing left is kind of society. Society is the only thing left telling these people who they are and what they should value. Other notable examples of exceptional people being dark reflections of their society are like Lex Luthor and Azula. Lex Luthor representing this darker, quote unquote, which is oxymoronic, version of American capitalism, where the only thing that matters is your personal gain. And, you know, Superman used to say he represents truth, justice, and the American way. And there's a reason why Superman today has dropped that. Azula is probably one of the most exceptional firebenders that has ever existed. And she is such a dark reflection of Fire Nation imperialist fascist values. And it's not all that the Fire Nation is, but it is a dark reality of what they are. And Azula represents that perfectly. A lot of the time, these people get surrounded by sycophants. People who will just constantly praise them and tell them how good and cool they are, but none of them actually matter. None of them actually stick around for the exceptional person's life, really. And tangentially, this is part of the reason why the people who say Tai Lung was right all along, actually, is where I get annoyed. Because in hyping up Tai Lung, in talking about how good someone is, you kind of ignore them. You put them on a pedestal that is like, oh, this person's a god, this person's the GOAT. And as a result of this, you end up dehumanizing them. Like, you are dehumanizing these people when you say these things. It's a positive form of dehumanization, but it's still dehumanizing. And when you do that, it's really bad for people's mental health, honestly.
And one day, you're going to look around and you're going to realize that everybody loves you, but nobody likes you. And that is the loneliest feeling in the world.
Admittedly, I do think I'm projecting a little bit onto Tai Lung, because, in my opinion, it wasn't really his fault that he turned out the way that he did. There's always a discussion about personal responsibility and how we should have learned, or you have to be responsible for your choices at some point. And I agree. I really do. But in the case of Tai Lung, he never really had a chance. In the world of Kung Fu Panda, which is just functionally fictional China, there is an element of Confucius upbringing, which is a meritocratic idea where you can literally test out of poverty if you score well enough or whatever. So there is a sort of bias and favoritism towards merit, and Tai Lung is a dark reflection of that.
And give this moment, which is actually a truly heroic moment, as Po, the noble warrior, offers the answer to Tai Lung, and you know, and if Tai Lung were to accept that
So, yeah, it's
answer,
another shot at redemption. If Tai Lung had listened to Po's wisdom, he might not get whooshed into oblivion.
I'm gonna just rag on Oogway one last time. When Tigress was talking about Tai Lung's background and how Oogway saw a great darkness in him. You saw a great darkness in this kid and you didn't think to try to guide him? You shitty ass turtle? You just stood by and watched as your son raised a child that you knew was going to do wrong in your 1,000 years of millennia wisdom? God, I fucking hate this turtle. Tai Lung is like pushing basically 40, if we're being reasonable about his age. And he really didn't have a shot. Shifu raised him to be this way since childhood. He immediately gets sent to jail for 20 years and gets put in what I can only describe as the most horrific solitary confinement I've ever seen. And he was supposed to have grown wiser in that time, with a family that didn't visit him for 20 years, that left him to rot. That's a shot. That's an opportunity. Oh, well, Tai Lung did a bad thing, and so we don't have to think about this anymore. Blah, 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 blah. That's not an answer. It's not. People are not born bad. No one is born bad. And the discourse has to be better than the Killmonger effect. It has to be better than, oh, this person did a bad thing. Cool. We don't have to listen to their grievances anymore. We don't have to empathize or sympathize with what happened to them or anything. They're just a bad person. And truly, what a shit way to view the world if that's how you actually see things. Speaking about the massacre that Tai Lung committed.
Unless there's a human component to the villain that makes you understand why they believe they're justified in their in their villainy.
But we actually
they're
freaked
just
people out. But
dimensional.
and then that we kept getting the note of he's too dimensional, he's too human. There's too much going on.
I've got too much sympathy for Tai Lung.
Yeah, so as a balance we had to strike because we wanted you to engage with him and believe him as a villain, but at the same time we didn't want him to be totally sympathetic.
Well, that's actually why we ended up putting in an abstracted version of a massacre in the flashback scene, which will be coming up, because people actually felt, well, I feel bad for Tai Lung being. He wanted something and he was denied it, and now he's been locked away in this hideous prison for 20 years. And so we actually realized we hadn't done a good enough job of justifying why Tai Lung, had to be incarcerated. So we put in this abstracted version of him, running amok in the valley.
I understand that this is canon. I understand the production reason why they did it. Because if they don't do the massacre scene, Tai Lung becomes too human. You don't feel good about Poe's victory at the end, where Poe basically murders a man who has been facing an injustice for 20 years. And something about the note that he was too human, he was too sympathetic. So we're just gonna dehumanize him and sweep it under the rug. Something about that doesn't sit well in my stomach.
The first time we get to hear Ian McShane's voice come out of Tai Lung, and we realize he's actually a thinking, very smart and real being. He's not just a feral beast.
That was a very conscious choice to have him to not say anything until he's beaten his challenge. That the only thing you'd hear would be actual animal sounds, so you might think he was just bestial.
And now we reach the next major tragedy that occurs. Society and the world loves it when you're on high, but they love it more when you're taken down. Let's talk about Poe and kind of the everyman trope.
Never before had a panda been so feared and so loved. Even the most heroic heroes in all of China, the Furious Five, bowed in respect to this great master.
There are more Poes in the world than Tai Lungs. That's just a statistical reality. And every Poe dreams of being exceptional, to be adored by the society around them, and by the natures of narratives, by the nature of the stories that we tell. Most of the stories end up catering to the Poes of the world. It becomes wish fulfillment. You don't need to work decades to get to a skill level where you can beat Tai Lung. 3 days of training, a montage, and a mentor that believes in you is all you need. Tai Lung, in Poe's eyes, and by extension, the audience's eyes, stops really being a person. He is a threat. He is a goal that needs to be overcome, because without Tai Lung, in the narrative, Poe remains a victor of a system that he did not earn or deserve. And that also feels bad. Meanwhile, for Tai Lung, upon hearing about Poe, he had a very interesting reaction.
I heard how he fell out of the sky on a ball of fire, that he's a warrior, unlike anything the world has ever seen.
Poe?
So that is his name. Poe.
The elation in his voice. For Tai Lung, Poe is also a dream. Because in Tai Lung's mind, one of two things is going to happen. Either Poe proves Oogway right, and after all these years of injustice, after all these years of wondering why he was not chosen, he finally gets to meet a caliber of warrior that is actually so far beyond him, that is actually so exceptional, that there was no other possible choice it could have been. Or, if he wins, he gets to satisfy his ego. He gets to prove Oogway wrong, that he was actually always worthy of being Dragon Warrior. For Tai Lung, the situation is a win-win, because regardless, Tai Lung now has an actual peer, someone he can actually finally call an equal, or at least something close to it. But the same can't be said for Poe. Because, remember, Tai Lung is his obstacle. Tai Lung is a thing that, at the end of the day, needs to be dealt with. And so what does Po do to a guy he barely knows? He kills him.
Skadoosh.
And so we reach the final tragedy that often befalls exceptional characters. You die. Or closely approximating it. And really, it's not even the dying that's really the worst part of it. It's the fact that after you die, the world just cheers. It cheers after these people are gone. It cheers when these people are dead and out of the way. And there's something about that, about a society that turns these people who are very exceptional into these monsters, into these villains. And then when the plot does away with them, there's no sympathy, really. There's no one to mourn. And that's really the biggest tragedy in Tai Lung's case. It's not just the injustice that happened to him. It's not just the fact that he was denied a job and a role that he worked so damn hard for. It's the fact that when he died, the world cheered. And his own father didn't even seem to give a shit. And really, this is where I want to shit on Shifu a little bit. Shifu is really the bad guy, if you ask me, in this entire story. Oogway as well, but Shifu is an accomplice, effectively. Your son came back after 20 years of prison and confronts you about never visiting him, confronts you about turning him into this monster that is the antagonist of this entire movie. And then you have the gall to apologize as if that makes it right. And then you proceed to have your student who you raised and trained to specifically beat him, and as well as your other 5 students that you trained explicitly to make sure that he doesn't ever come home.
Our only hope is the Dragon Warrior.
The panda?
That's the panda!
Master, please, let us stop Tai Lung. This is what you've trained us for.
He gets killed, and there's no sadness, there's no remorse, there's no nothing. Just a mistake that Shifu made that one of his students gets to clean up. And after Po kills his son, after Po cleans up Shifu's mistake, they just get dumplings afterward? Yeah. Alright. And truly, what a tragic way for Tai Lung to go. Now, you'd think this would be the end of the video, but there's like a little bit left that I wanted to talk about. Because in the director's commentary about the whole, there's actually nothing in this scroll, that's the secret, there's nothing. Check this part out.
Po is showing the children of the village, all these little rabbits, the blank scroll so that they can see their reflection and
yeah, for 1,000 years that secret has been, you know, withheld, and now it's for the world to see, and Po is not going to withhold it. He's going to let everybody see it. He let Tai Lung see it. He let, you know.
Yeah.
Tai Lung literally died because of this. Why was it even a secret to begin with, you know? Because all this happened because Oogway said Tai Lung was not worthy of being Dragon Warrior and therefore was not worthy of the secrets of the scroll, which is fucking nothing. And the fact that Po just shows everyone really feels like it's a big middle finger to all the people who work hard, to all the people like Tai Lung who thought that they had to shape and mold themselves to be something more, when the reality is you could have just told them that they didn't need to do that. And literally, I understand we need it for narrative reasons. I understand we need it for the movie. But the end credit here, which most people probably have not seen, that just, oh, that rubs me the wrong way. That really fucking sucks. And I didn't mention this in the earlier segments because this is a Tai Lung video. But I also really wanted to point out that, like, Tigress got done so fucking dirty here, man. She got done so dirty. Just another victim of Oogway's system, of this generational trauma that didn't need to fucking happen. Just, Oogway really fucking sucks.
Why can't you accept that she might be living a good, honest life? That she's an attentive partner and a good mom?
Because I wanted that mom. I wanted the mom who made me afternoon snacks, instead of just telling me to look for loose fries in the McDonald's ball pit. Why does Patricia get that mom? If Donna Shellstrop has truly changed, then that means she was always capable of change. But I just wasn't worth changing for.
But yeah, thanks for watching. I promise not all my videos are going to be a downer like this. This has just been something that's been boiling in my mind for a moment. Yeah. Not all exceptional characters end up this way, but vast majorities of the time, this is generally how they kind of come out. But yeah, like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed my video essay rants, I guess. Bye-bye.